Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Coding with Kenny G. And now we're at episode 18 and we gotten a lot of stuff done. So we're not too far away from being a turn-based game that works. At least in terms of input with the two different factions. So now we are going to create something called a turn controller. This is a guy that's going to control whose player's turn it is, or rather faction, you might say. And control is just a state machine. And then we're going to have events on that one as well that updates the world around it to the current state of the game. So let's sit down and make it, huh? Okay, so turn controller, let's make it. It's a script. Turn controller. All right, turn controller. So this guy is gonna need probably some enums, maybe. And it needs to tell the world that something has changed. So either we're going to have events in the turn controller or we're going to have events in the game controller. But this one, the game controller, is going to be a bit bigger script. It's going to contain a lot of stuff, so we want to keep this one smaller if possible. So I think that the turn controller is gonna have its own static events that the other people can listen to, or other scripts, that is. And then we have to set up the state machine. So, okay, private fields. Then we say private faction. Current playing faction. That is gonna default to none, but the game controller is gonna tell the turn controller when to change the state. So we're gonna do that through a public function, and then this guy, we can create an event. It's called public static event system dot action, where we're gonna have two payloads. So we're gonna have faction and then faction, and then on turnover. I'm gonna help you out with a summary here. So the payload at position 0, that is the previous playing faction, and 1 is the current playing faction. The usage of this is intended to be that this guy is fired when we have actually changed the state. We change the state, then we fire the event. So the current is the guy that it has changed to. Okay. Then we're just gonna have a public void change turn faction target faction. Or even better, this is pretty much a bool. It's on or off, or rather it's the one state or the other state. So yeah, now we're gonna take it as parameter, because game controller might need to tell turn controller specifically which faction should have their turn now. So we're gonna keep that. Okay, target faction. Then we say Current playing faction equals target faction, and then we can have a local variable here, var previous faction equals target faction. Maybe we should have that saved. Well, the previous faction, I noticed that I might never use it. Yeah, we're gonna delete it. We don't need previous. We can add it in if we need it. So only the current playing faction after the turnover has changed. Current playing faction equals target faction. Then we're gonna fire this event on turnover. Invoke current playing faction. There we go. That's it. Then game controller can have a reference to this, so the turn controller doesn't need to be a mono behavior, but it's fine. I like to place objects that are dynamic, or scripts that are dynamic. I like to place them on these game objects because then they're kind of in play. But it's nice. So let's just say public turn controller. Turn controller. Over there, I'm gonna have a header. Say this is gonna be called component references. And tooltip for this particular guy is the turn controller state machine. Cool. And when we start the game, we are actually going to tell the turn controller to change its state to the target faction. So we're gonna say turn controller. I'm in the wrong function, sorry. Start game. We want to tell excuse me, after the on start game has been invoked, we tell the turn controller to change state. So change turn to starting faction. A small thing that I just thought about. We have a little UI component called turn displayer UI controller. Instead of listening to on start game, I just want to change this to private void on change turn, and it's gonna take in a faction. There we go. We can comment out the on start game, and also these listeners might need it later, but I just want to change this interaction where it moves to position from the change turn instead. So we're gonna listen to this static event from turn controller dot on turnover plus equals on change turn and desubscribe. Alrighty, minus equals, there we go. And then I just want to call this move to position to faction instead. There we go. And then it should work similarly, but yeah. If that guy were to listen to both on turnover and start game, it would kind of have to update this position twice, because it would happen pretty much at the same time when we start the game the first time. So we don't need that. That's why I updated this. Okay, start game, cool. And now we are going to just make this turn-based game kind of work. So on actor end move, we are going to change the turn after the guy has moved. We are of course gonna implement all these mechanics that need to happen, but pretty much the last thing that is happening after an actor's end move has ended his move, and we have checked all the game mechanics for win and capture and whatnot, then we're gonna end the turn. So we're gonna do that here in the game controller on actor end move. Turn controller dot change turn to we need to know who's playing right now. So turn controller, we can create a few helper functions as well. First of all, we can have a public function that is going to return faction, get current playing faction. Then we return the current playing faction, and then we want a helper function that returns the other function, the other faction, the one that is not playing. So we can create a helper function for that in the turn controller. Public faction get non-playing faction. So this is pretty much the faction that is just waiting for its turn. But this is just a two-player game, and we already know who the two factions are. But I'm just gonna create this to make it easy to interact with. So we're just gonna make an if statement. If current playing faction equals faction.attacker faction, then return faction.defender. And similarly, else if current playing faction is faction.defender, then return faction.attacker. So it's just the opposite. And this, if none of this happen, we have to have a default here. So return faction.none, which we if we start doing all these checks for wrong states, we can catch this. Yeah. Okay, so that's a helper function, game controller. So we're gonna change turn to the guy that is not playing right now. So then we say turn controller dot get non-playing faction. So pretty much we just flip the switch to the other guy. And what we're gonna see, hopefully, is that the turn counter moves back and forth. So let's play. Let's try to move an attacker. Yeah, I forgot to probably place some, yeah, there we go. I need a turn controller. So I add the turn controller component to the game controller object, and I drag this into this reference slot. Okay. Press play. Good. Then we can try to move the attacker. Boink. And it slides over to the defenders. I'm still able to select an attacker, but we're gonna fix that very soon. And now I can select the defender and then move. And it slides back to attacker. Good. So we got that system working. Now it's just a matter of disallowing the current player to not be able to do input on the other player's faction. Pretty much. And then all of a sudden we have a turn-based game with no win conditions or lose conditions or proper mechanics yet, but we're actually really getting there. So let's see here. I need some water. Check my time. Yeah, not too bad. Okay. Yeah, so now we are going to check in the actor selector script. Here we are only gonna allow input on the current playing faction. We don't know who controls that faction yet. For now it's a human player on both, but later one of them will probably be an AI. But for now we only allow clicks from a player on the faction that is currently playing, and we need to implement this in the on tile selected event handler. So first of all, down up here we are checking for click on a tile that is present in a move path, right? But we want to deal with this section now, where we are selecting a tile, or rather selecting an actor by clicking on the tile it stands on. And at this point in time we should only allow clicks on a tile with an actor that is of the current playing faction. So just let me think for a little bit here. So we check down here if the tile is occupied by an actor, display that actor's legal move path. And I wonder if it's just enough to only allow this to happen if the actor is of the same faction that the turn controller, which is the current playing faction in the turn controller. So if t.get is tile occupied and t.get occupying actor dot faction get faction equals turn controller dot get, yeah, we need to make a turn controller into a singleton actually. So let's do that real quick, and that's fine. Public static turn controller instance. Let's create an awake if instance equals null instance equals this. If instance is not equal to this, destroy game object. Cool. So then we have access to these public functions. If we were to not use the singleton thing here, you will need to find this game object with this component and get the component on it. It's a little bit of a yeah. So we're just gonna do this: turn controller dot instance dot get current playing faction. So I think that with this line going on here, we're only allowed to click on, or rather select actors and display their move path if they're of the same faction as the one that is currently playing. Which is what we want, so let's go and test it. Now I should only be able to click on the attackers. Yeah, I'm clicking on these defender guys. Does not work, which is intended. Let's click on the attacker, and it does work. And there we go. Now it's defender's turn. Let's try to click on the attacker. Does not. Oh, I managed to do something there. Interesting. What was that? I tried to multi-click many times. Huh. Interesting. Might need a little bit of debugging here. Let's replay. So we can click multiple times on this defender and it does not freak out. Okay, click on attacker and move it. It's defender's turn. Try to multi-click on an attacker. Nope, nothing bad happens. Let's try to multi-click on this guy. Oh, yeah, there is a little bit of something going on there, because our guy was able to move diagonally. So right here on this tile here, there are now two pieces. That's bad. So there is a little bit of a bug going on in our actor selector. Yeah. I assume that this is something I need a little bit of time to just weed out. So for now, we got this turn controller basically working, but we need to fix some bugs. Let's just see if I don't do anything like wrong by just super duper clicking many times on an actor or something, that we can at least continue to move these guys. And yeah, so it's an error in the possibility of clicking on an actor several times. Is probably something to do with who is currently stored in our variables. But I'm gonna have a little bit of look on that one, fix it, and then we'll take a look at that in the next episode. So I will see you in the next one.